6 signs that your ex is dismissive avoidant. I'm making this video to share with you those signs because it's very important for you to know and make the difference between a sign that a person is avoidant versus not interested in you. And there's a big difference. I used to be dismissive avoidant, and I share my tips with my clients as well and my perspective on things as well. You'll see 6 signs. Most avoidant will have at least 4 of them. You'll see everything after the jingle.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
And it is so confusing to date someone who's dismissive avoidant. You were happy, you had something special, you know, everything was great, up to a point where you feel your ex is detaching from one day to another, almost like very brutal, very sudden, a breakup. And so what you need to understand is whether this is a loss of feelings or what we call in attachment theory deactivation strategy, i.e. when we all have a deep need for connection, for attachment, and when we are avoidant, we basically are actively and unconsciously pushing away our partner, our primary attachment figure. So the first one is your ex or your partner feels uncomfortable with commitment. And if you look at your story, perhaps have a look at the different sort of milestones in your story, perhaps things started to drift apart a little bit after you talked about kids, for example, or moving in together. That creates a lot of tension. That creates this idea, this pressure of commitment. And avoidant are really scared, really adverse of commitment, because commitment means losing my freedom. And they might be saying things, which I don't believe is true, but might be saying things, if we get married, then we will stop caring for each other. Implying that getting married and choosing one partner for the rest of his life will mean I'm not gonna be able to seduce you, to take care of you, to take you for granted. It's actually different, but it's the belief system that's attached to that avoidant attachment. Second one, they are fiercely independent. So it's very hard for them to collaborate. That's one of my worst thing with my wife. It's hard to collaborate, need time alone, doing things on my own terms. So if I take my example, I'm getting better at this, but I'd rather say do something that is a pain, that's really painful on my own, than collaborate and make it sort of easier, but as a team. So I don't want to share any chores or stuff like that. I prefer to do it myself. So again, being independent on their own terms. And so there are things in a relationship that you can do independently. There are things that you have to collaborate. So for example, like education with kids is something where you have to collaborate. If it's about like cooking, it's okay if you don't collaborate. So it's really important for you to also draw the line. And I'm making these videos not only to explain you how to spot a dismissive avoidant, but also to understand also how you draw the line, how you set boundaries, because you don't want to end up in a relationship that's not right for you, regardless if the person is secure, regardless if the person is avoidant. You also want to know what matters for you and what you accept and what you don't accept. Third one, they have hard time understanding emotions. Dismissive is because you dismiss emotions. People who are dismissive avoidant, they have this alexithymia. It's interesting, it's called Alexis. It's from the Greek word, no words for emotion. And it's really hard for them to understand what is an emotion. For ages, I thought it was really good, it was a really good skill not to have any emotions. And I thought because I didn't have any emotion, I was managing the emotions. It's actually the other way around. And so there's this strong belief that they are self-reliant, strong, tough. Statistics show that women can be equally avoidant men, but I think there's a generation of boys who grew up with the idea, boys don't cry, man up. You don't have time to cry, that's not your role. And so you would sort of dismiss, they were raised as little boys to dismiss their emotion rather than to embrace them. Nowadays it's very different. We teach empathy, we teach emotions to children, sort of we help them to understand what's going on within themselves, especially when they are kids, because it's hard for them to regulate their emotions, the tantrums and so on and so forth. It's really about the emotion. So rather than say like, stop, this tantrum, you don't know what you're doing. Nowadays, we're more like, okay, I understand that you're going through that, strong emotion. I'm going to help you deal and understand and put words on those emotions, label those emotions. So some signs that they deal with strong emotions, for example, if you're avoidant, they would withdraw from family or friends. They would stay on their own. They would work long hours. It's very common for men and women equally to say, okay, I'm going to stay long at work. I'm going to dedicate myself because there's a drive, because I feel, it's not safe, but I feel like there's a purpose. I feel like I can really be in the flow, working long hours, spending time away from home, consuming alcohol or any drugs to, again, help them deal with those emotions. Rather than facing those emotions, they'll try to distract themselves from that emotion. And also, it's less frequent, behaving in a reckless way or being violent. Fourth one is the phantom X phenomenon that has been discussed in the book Attached by Dr. Amit Levin. The idea that there's a safe distance between you and your ex, because you don't have the commitment anymore, and therefore there's no threat in terms of intimacy, which puts that person, who's not their partner anymore, on a pedestal, because it's idealizing the relationship. Because the avoidant it's not that they don't like people, they don't like the relationship. And so when they have this idea of the next girlfriend or the next boyfriend or their previous boyfriend or their previous girlfriend, the image they have of that person when they're not with that person is on a pedestal, because everything around the relationship, the commitment, the depth of the emotion, the connection, it makes them uncomfortable. But that person itself, they have nothing against that person, it's the relationship. And so that could affect the current relationship, and it's again a deactivating strategy. When they're with someone, they're thinking about their ex, or when they broke up. So that's what we use with my clients is, if your ex is dismissive avoidant, there's a very, very high probability that your ex is actually idealizing the relationship. So right now, if it's really a few days after the breakup, they might be thinking, I needed that space, I couldn't bear it anymore, I need to be alone, I don't want to be in a relationship. But after a few weeks, if you have the right mindset, if you use the right communication, they'll realize that actually they will idealize you, because there's no threat anymore in terms of their intimacy. Number 5, intimacy is scary. So intimacy can also say that it's how you can be vulnerable. So intimacy is not only sex, it could be like emotional intimacy. And so being vulnerable could be seen as I'm weak, right? And so they don't like that, avoidant. They also have, because they don't have the tools, they don't have the words to express themselves, they don't have the habit to ask themselves questions, deeper questions. Sometimes we be hearing things, I don't want to hurt you. And they don't understand the language. They might say, I don't want you to suffer, you deserve someone better. It's like a classic one. They know there's something wrong. They know you're a great person, but they can't make it work. And so very often they will realize that there's something, they might not admit this, but they really realize that you're a great person, you're doing the right things, but they can't make it work. And sometimes they would say, it's a lack of compatibility, and I'll find someone else. Sometimes they'll realize after the breakup, what do I really want? Do I really want to be single for the rest of my life? Do I really want to self-sabotage any relationships I have? Because usually it's a pattern. You'll see that if your ex is breaking up with you because they're avoidant, they've done the same with other of their partners. And so there's a point in their life where they realize, okay, what do I really want? And if your relationship was special, if your relationship was strong enough, if you have the right foundation, yes, there will be a wake-up call for them. One way to know whether your relationship is strong or not, you can make an assessment, take an assessment. I put a quiz. There's a link in the description where you can assess your relationship and check whether your relationship has potential to be recovered. Another way for you to, if you want questions, if you want answers. So if you have questions and if you want answers, you can also have a look in the description. There's a link to have a quick call, a 15-minute call with me. Sometimes people think like, I think I have the answer, but I want a confirmation, or I'm confused and I'm lost. I just want to have a quick chat with you, or perhaps you want to start coaching, but rather than starting right away, either on WhatsApp or one-to-one sessions, you just want to have a chat with me. So have a look in the description. I don't bite. That's a time for you just to discuss your specific situation, and I will provide you with my sort of take on your situation from an objective point of view, given the experience that I have dealing with people and their breakups. 6-1, they send mixed signals. It's on and off dynamic. Sometimes it's during the relationship, sometimes it's after, and it's even worse when you're dealing with an ex. It's very hard to deal with, and if you are in that case, you feel you're being manipulated. That person is playing with you, keeping you on the hook because they don't know what they want, right? Using effective communication is key. To decrypt, to make sure that you draw the line, to express what you want, what you don't want. It's okay to express your needs, your thoughts and your feelings, and the next needs to be dealt with cautious in that sense, because that's the ideal way of dealing with mixed signals when you're in a relationship, is when you have like ability to communicate with your ex. If you're going through a no contact phase, or if you're blocked, of course you can't do those things, but at the moment there are ways for you to engage with your ex, if they are dismissive, avoidant, to make sure that you don't end up being manipulated. You're not suffering at the other end of that mixed signal phase. If you can list 4 or 5 of those traits in your ex, you are guaranteed that your ex is a dismissive avoidant. Let me know in the comment section if it was spot on, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer.